Alright guys, this is the first video of Animation Master. I'm very excited and I've got heaps of content to dive into. Now in this video, I'm going to teach you the 5 steps I use to create animations and give you some tips and techniques you can use to complete each step. Now in this course, our main focus will be on how to use After Effects to create animations and infographics. In this video, I want to lay out a plan for you on how I would create a video from scratch using 5 simple steps. These steps will also help you if you're either someone who struggles to get started on a project or needs a plan for creating an animated video. Now, it's important to know that no amount of beautiful animation will ever hold a viewer's attention without a strong concept and story. If you nail these steps, your videos will be much more engaging. Step 1 is concept and idea. Here's where we work out what your video is going to be about. Start researching a topic and start compiling a rough story you want to focus on. A good tip here is to find a similar video and make notes on the structure. The video opens with a question. It showed a map of India. If you're struggling to even come up with an idea, look for good ideas in books, ideas from real life, or ideas from movies. Watch other online videos around the same topic. Remember, you're not trying to copy someone else's work, you want to use it to inspire and develop your own ideas. Also think about what makes a good concept, a question posed and a solution offered. Will Jim be able to jump over the table, for instance? Or if it's like a Vice or Vox video, start with a hook. What causes feet to smell? Why is the ocean getting louder? Or why kids write letters backwards? These ideas intrigue and hook the audience into watching the video. There is a great importance in simplicity and clarity when deciding on a topic and a hook. At this stage, you only want to focus on narrowing down a solid concept for your video. Once you feel you have a good idea for a video topic and you've completed your research, only then should you proceed to step 2. Now, step 2 is all about scripting. Now is the time to take everything we've collected from step 1 and put it into a written script. Now, your next question might be, how do I even write the best script for these kinds of videos? Any script you write should follow this simple structure. Number 1 is exposition / present the problem. 2 is rising action. 3, the climax. 4 is falling action and examples, and 5 is the resolution. Exposition: start by posing the question to the audience or introduce the problem. You want to lead with your strongest points first. The opening needs to hook the viewer's interest. If you can't engage with the viewer at the beginning, then no amount of beautiful animation will keep the viewer watching. Maybe try starting with the question that brought the viewers in. Now, the rising action is where you start to build the story starting from the beginning. This might involve going back in time to help the audience understand the issue at hand. If appropriate, presenting a timeline to your audience of the history might be a good way to tell your story. The climax is your biggest moment or eureka moment where you present your outcome of the video. It might involve presenting your answer to the original question or title of the video. If you posed a question at the start, now is the time to answer that question based on the research you have done. Now, falling action is where you can start to sum up the whole video, referring back to examples to support your presented theories in the video. In the resolution, you can go back and answer the original question and bring the story to a satisfying and final resolution. Some other useful tips to know when writing your script is 150 words is equal to 1 minute of voiceover. 1 page of screenplay format equals 1 minute of video. Now, once you have your script, it's a good idea to record the whole thing as a voiceover. This helps when creating a structure for when editing your video. Step 3 is to create a style. This is the very first point in which you start designing your video and animation. We want to start to get an idea of what the end product might actually look like. This is where a voiceover from the previous step helps, because we can lay this out in our timeline and use it to work out which sections will be voiceover, interviews, images, and animation. If you're someone who struggles with designing, then here are some principles and techniques that might help you. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these principles in a lot of detail, but if you want a much deeper understanding, then check out my Motion Hero short course, which goes through these principles, resources, creating designing boards and animations in much more detail. Now, if you're interested in that course, then you can use the link above to get that course for half price. Some design elements to consider are brand colors, picking fonts, and animation styles. Look at other examples. It's important to select your brand colors that you're going to use early on. This might be colors which match your own branding, or 2 to 3 colors which match your video's theme. A good tip here is to only choose 2 or 3 and try to stick to those throughout your video. Look at these examples on screen. See how each of them have a distinctive color palette. Now, this also applies for when picking your fonts. Try to only pick 2 that best represent your video and use them throughout. Start to work out your animation style by picking a theme that best represents your video. In this example from later in the course, I created this white and blue paper theme to represent the video's ocean waste topic in the video. Notice the blues and whites and neutral tones taken from the ocean theme. If you're struggling to create a style, then look at other motion graphics for inspiration. A good place to get inspiration and creating your own style is Behance. Just look through the different designs and pick out elements which may work for your video. Keep in mind, you don't want to copy other people's work, just use it to inspire your own. Now remember, the most important thing in creating your style is to be consistent in your design. For example, don't start with one color and then end the video with another. Another tip is to create a new animation style for each video. So don't think you have to use the same style across every video. It just has to be the same within each video. Step 4 is where we put together our design boards. This is really just an extension of step 3 in that we can start to open After Effects and lay out a few frames for each section. Now think of this like drawing a storyboard for a film. We want to know exactly what the animation is going to look like. Now again, if you want to understand this in more detail, then my Motion Hero short course goes into designing this process in much more detail. Now if you're interested in that, then you can use the link above to get that short course for half price. Now remember, this step is not about animation. You should only be creating a still frame in the computer. Take everything from the previous step and start combining it all to create a still frame. If you're someone who prefers drawing, then grab a pen and paper and draw out a few frames. Either way, it's all about working out what your animation is going to look like, nothing else. A pro tip is to use that voiceover to lay out the design boards and block out which parts will be animations, interviews, or stock footage. Step 5 is when we can start our animation. Now we take all the information and material from the previous steps and start to animate our video. Now this should be the easy part because you should already know what you are going to be animating and for how long. Having previously recorded the voiceover, we can animate our video using that voiceover as timing. Then it's just a matter of rinse and repeat. At this point, I don't expect you to understand much about animation because that's exactly what we're going to focus on in this course. How to create animations inside of After Effects. Now, some other questions that I got that may help you is how do I work with music and sound? Music and sound effects, although are a crucial step in any video process, they should always be left to last. Start with the voiceover and then work through the video. Once you're done, then you can add your music and sound effects to reinforce that messaging throughout your video. Should I use Premiere or After Effects to make my video with lots of archival footage? In short, yes, editing video is much easier in Premiere Pro, so using Premiere and After Effects together would be a good idea. Although we are just focusing on After Effects in this course, you can easily create a whole video using just After Effects. Archive footage should only be used if it best supports the story you are trying to tell. Another question I have is, do I have one very long composition or lots of little ones, and how do I plan transitions? You can do whatever is easier. I personally find that organizing the animations into smaller compositions is a good way of organizing a large video. A good suggestion here is if you have two separated sections in the video, then create 2 separate compositions inside of After Effects. Again, planning for transitions or animations should all be done in the earlier steps we have discussed. What length is best and how do I plan how long a scene should be in order to have a good pace? Now, shorter is better. If you're going to create an online video, then 7 to 10 minutes is a good time. It's long enough to get your message across, but it's short enough to keep your audience engaged. But ultimately, your video will be as long as it needs to in order to tell your story. So that's my 5 steps to creating any animation. Hopefully you've learned a few techniques throughout this video. In the rest of this section, we're going to be diving straight into learning After Effects. Now, if you have any questions about this particular video or any videos in this course, don't hesitate to let me know.